Prabhupada writes, by such drinking, they became delirious and bereft of sense, so much so that they forgot their relationship with one another and used harsh words which touched the cores of each other's hearts. Drinking is so harmful that even such a highly cultured family becomes affected by intoxication and can forget themselves in a drunken state. The disciples of Vrishni and Bhoja were not expected to forget themselves in this way, but by the will of the Supreme it happened, and thus they became harsh towards one another. So the point is repeated. Next.
As by the friction of bamboos, destruction takes place. So also at sunset, by the interaction of the force of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place.
So again here Prabhupada writes, the Lord wanted them to be so destroyed, and thus they obeyed His order, as indicated by the word tad anugyata. So this comes in the previous verse actually. Tad anugyata. Atha te tad anugyata bhuktva pitva cha varunim. Taya vibhramshita jnana drukter marma pasprishu. So tad anugyata, by His order. Okay. Third.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, after foreseeing the end of his family by his internal potency, went to the bank of the river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree.
Okay, so Bhagavan Swa Atma Maya, by his internal potency. Gatim tam avalokya saha saraswatim upasprishya vrikshamulam upavasa. Okay, so this is happening by his internal potency. Again, Prabhupada writes, he raises the question. They were all his sons and grandsons and were given complete protection by the paternal affection of the Lord. How could they be vanquished in the presence of the Lord is answered in this verse. Everything was done by the Lord Himself, Swa Atma Maya. The Lord's family members were either incarnations of His plenary expansions or demigods from the heavenly planets. Okay, so Anshuman Prabhu, I think so that answers your question. So they were either incarnations of His plenary expansions, so that is Vishnu Tattva, or demigods from the heavenly planets. And of course, most of them were combination of both. And thus before His departure, He separated them by His internal potency. Before being dispatched to their respective abodes, they were sent to the holy place of Prabhas, respective abodes, before being dispatched to their respective abodes. So there was the eternal associates and the demigods. So both of them were to be sent to their respective abodes. Before that, they were sent to the holy place of Prabhas, where they performed pious activities, took food and drink to their heart's content. It was then arranged for them to be sent back to their abodes, so that others could see that the powerful Yadu dynasty was no longer in the world. In the previous verse, the word anugyata, indicating that the whole sequence of events was arranged by the Lord, is significant. These particular pastimes of the Lord are not a manifestation of His external energy or material nature. Such an exhibition of His internal potency is eternal, and therefore one should not conclude that the Yadus and Bhojas died in a drunken state in an ordinary fratricidal war. Sri Jiva Goswami comments on these instances, magical performances. Text 4.
The Lord is the vanquisher of the distresses of one who is surrendered unto Him. Thus, He who desired to destroy his family told me previously to go to Badrika Ashram.
Yes, so this who is saying? Uddhava. Yes. So this Uddhav is telling. So all this was being told by Uddhav. Right? Till now, all these past Lord were being told by Uddhav to Vidura. So now Uddhav is saying that the Lord who is Prapannarti Harena. Prapanna. Prapanna means one who surrendered. So for the surrendered, what he does? Arti Harena. Arto, Jigyasur, Artharti. So Arto means the distress. So he takes away the distress of those who are prapanna, arti harena. So the Supreme Lord who takes away the distress of those who are surrendered, he had told Uddhav to go to Badrikashram. Okay, then.
Yet, in spite of having his desire to destroy the dynasty, O Arindam, Vidura, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear the separation from the lotus feet of the Master.
Okay, so at Dwarka itself, the Lord had told Uddhav to go to Badrikashram. But Uddhav could not tolerate separation from the Lord. And so therefore, he came to Prabhas along with all the other Yadus, even though he was not told to come. He was told to go to Badrikashram, but he could not bear separation from Krishna. Go ahead.
Thus following, I saw my patron and master, Lord Sri Krishna, sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of the river Saraswati, although he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune.
So ultimately, he is the shelter of everyone. It's not that he is taking shelter. He is the proprietor of everything. Everything is his shelter, and everywhere is under his shelter. What's your question?
Yes, question that Lord himself was instructing to go to Badrikashram, but still he didn't give it.
Okay, we'll come to know the reason why. Oh?
Vidura is indicated as subduer of enemies. Who are his enemies now? Okay. Uddhavji is indicating this.
So Vidura is called as Arindama. Why? That's your question.
Subduer of enemy.
I don't know. Arindama. Arindama means subduer of the enemy. Of course, Vidura, he, in one sense, all those who were inimical towards him, Dhritarashtra and company, they were all his enemies, right? Though he didn't consider them to be his enemy, but they were his enemies. And so now all of them have been subdued. All of them finished. Mind is everyone's enemy. Not for Vidura. The mind is enemy for whom? Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita. For whom the mind is enemy? Uncontrolled. Not for Vidura. Okay, in that sense you're saying. Okay, fine. That's good. I don't know. Okay, take 7.
The Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his 4 hands, different symbolic representation, and yellow silk garment.
Okay, next verse we'll recite. Vama urav adashritya dakshinangri saroruham apashritar bhabakshvatham akrisham tyakta pipalam. Krishna tyakta pipalam. The Lord was sitting taking rest against a young banyan tree with his right lotus foot on his left thigh. And although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. Purport?
According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord's sitting posture, keeping his back against the newly grown banyan tree, is also meaningful. Aswatha, the banyan tree, is so called because the tree does not die very quickly. It continues to live for many, many years. His legs and their energies are the material ingredient, which are 5 in all: earth, water, fire, and sky. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external potency and are therefore kept to his back. And because this particular universe is the smallest of all, the banyan tree is therefore designated as small or as a child. Tektva Pipalam indicates that he had now finished his pastime in this particular small universe. But since the Lord is absolute and eternally blissful, there is no difference between his living or accepting something. The Lord was now prepared to leave this particular universe and go into another, just as the sun rises on one particular planet and set in another simultaneously, but does not change its own situation.
Okay, so that's the significance of the banyan tree and the young banyan tree. So the banyan tree represents, yes, the material energy, external potency. So in previous verses also it's mentioned, right, that the external potency in the first canto, 7th chapter, the external potency is like a shadow, so always remains behind. And so here also the people tree is behind. And why young people tree? Smallest of the universes. Hmm?
This line is mentioned God's legs and their energies are material intelligence.
His legs and their energies are the material ingredients. So the material ingredients are his energies.
Not legs. Sit legs. The energy are material intelligence.
Huh?
Not legs are material intelligence. Seems like that. No experience.
Uh-huh. Basically, the tree is the material energy.
Was the banyan tree short in height or something? Like small?
Maybe you have to find out from someone who was there at that time. Is there any photograph at least? I don't know. Any photograph?
What's the meaning of
अभी भी वो banyan tree है.
He's saying the banyan tree is still there. You
but that is quite well.
बड़ा नहीं होगा है.
That time it was short or no?
You can go there and find out, Prabhas. Okay, 9th. Tasmin Mahabhagavato Dvaipayana Surutsakha Lokan Anucharan Siddha Asa Sada Yadrichaya. At that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord, and a friend and a well-wisher of the great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas, reached that spot out of his own perfect agot. Yadrichaya. Okay, read this purport.
Maitreya was one of the disciples of Mahasi Parasar, the father of Vyasdeva. Thus, Vyasdeva and Maitreya were friend and mutual well-wishers. By some fortunate accident, Maitreya reached the place where Lord Krishna was resting. To meet the Lord is not an ordinary incident. Maitreya was a great sage and a learned scholar, philosopher, but not a pure devotee of the Lord. And therefore, his meeting with the Lord at that time may have been due to Agyat Sukruti or some unknown devotional service. Pure devotees always engage in pure devotional activities, and therefore their meeting with the Lord is natural. But when those who are not up to that standard meet the Lord, it is due to the unforeseen fortune of accidental devotional service.
Okay, so everyone knows what is Agyat. Maitreya was not a pure devotee, that is mentioned later on also. And so Uddhav is there to meet the Lord, and at the same place, Maitreya also reaches. Yadrichaya. Huh?
Sorry, Lord Krishna, wherever he used to go, he used to hold the symbols in his hand for hand service.
What do you mean?
Like
He Here it is mentioned he had 4 hands, so therefore he had symbols. If he has only 2 hands, why he hold symbols? So if the 4 hands are there, the symbols are always there in the 4 hands.
He would be carrying stones always in his hand.
And so what do you feel it's too big a weight for him to carry?
He can source whoever he wants.
You can give advice to him. Or maybe you can assist him carrying. So what is written there? What is written? 4 or 2? So then why you're asking? He decided to have 4 hands. So what's the problem? No problem. No? I don't know. He decided to have 4 hands. हाँ? किसका पेड़ का? बाद में दिखा. So actually I really don't know what's the significance, why he appointed 4 hands. I don't know if there's any commentary. Text 10.
Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude, with his shoulder lowered, with a smile and a particular glance upon me. Having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows.
Who's speaking? Uddhav. So Uddhav is speaking and he's saying, with a smile and a particular glance upon me, having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows. So therefore Prabhupada says, although both Uddhav and Maitreya were great souls, the Lord's attention was more on Uddhav because he was a spotlessly pure devotee. A Jnana Bhakta, or one whose devotion is mixed with a monistic viewpoint, is not a pure devotee. Although Maitreya was a devotee, his devotion was mixed. So the Lord reciprocates with his devotees on the basis of transcendental love and not on the basis of philosophical knowledge or fruitive activities. So because Uddhav was spotlessly pure devotee, so therefore the Lord had inclination towards him. And so therefore, though both were present, the Lord was basically looking towards Uddhav and speaking to him. And then he gives the example of the gopis. And the last sentence, the Lord's attitude towards Uddhav was more intimate than with Maitreya Muni. So therefore, it's important that to the degree we make our devotional service spotless, to that degree, the Lord will be more inclined towards such a devotee. So if we want special favors of the Lord, then we have to perform spotless devotional service. So now the Lord speaks to Uddhav. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedahamantar Manasipsitam Te Dadami Yatta Duravapamanye Satre Pura Vishvasrijam Vasunam Matsiddhikame Navaso Tvayeshtaha. O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desire to achieve my association. This is very difficult to obtain for others, but I award it unto you. Okay, nice purport, read.
Uddhav is one of the eternal associates of the Lord, and a plenary portion of Uddhava was one of the 8 Vasus in the days of Yore.
Okay, so we have discussed this point that these eternal associates have expansions. Like Pradyumna, his expansion is Kamadev. Or Samba, Kartikeya. So like that here it's said, Uddhav is eternal associate and he has a plenary portion expansion, that is the one of the 8 Vasus. Okay.
The 8 Vasus and the demigods in the upper planetary system, who are responsible for the management of the universal affairs, performed a sacrifice in the days of yore, desiring to fulfill their respective ultimate goals in life. At that time, an expansion of Uddhava, acting as one of the Vasus, desired to become an associate of the Lord. The Lord knew this because He is within the heart of every living entity as Paramatma, the super consciousness. In everyone's heart, there is the representation of the super consciousness, who gives memory to the partial consciousness of every living entity. The living entity, as partial consciousness, forgets incidents of his past life, but the super consciousness reminds him how to act in terms of his past cultivation of knowledge. Bhagavad Gita confirms this fact in various ways. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sateva pajamyami. Sarvasya jaham drisannivishto matta sriti jnana apohanam. Everyone is at liberty to desire as he likes, but the desire is fulfilled by the Supreme Lord. Everyone is independent to think or desire, but the fulfillment of one's desire depends on the Supreme Will. This law is expressed as man proposes, God disposes. In the days of yore, when the demigods and Vasus performed sacrifice, Uddhava, as one of the Vasus, desired to enter into the association of the Lord, which is very difficult for those busy in empiric philosophical speculation or fruitive activities. Such persons have practically no information of the facts about becoming an associate of the Lord. Only the pure devotees can know, by the mercy of the Lord, that the personal association of the Lord is the highest perfection of life. The Lord assured Uddhava that he would fulfill his desire. It appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhava, the great sage Maitreya finally became aware of the importance of entering into the association of the Lord.
So when Maitreya hears this, so it seems that Maitreya also became transformed. So here the Lord is saying that getting his association is very rare. Duravapam anyai. But the Lord is saying, but I award you that association, matsiddhi kamena, because you have that desire. Okay, text 12.
O Uddhava, in the lotus millennium.
No, previous, 12. हाँ? अच्छा ऐसा है क्या? ओके ठीक है. हाँ.
O honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode, Vaikuntha, by living this universe of conditioned living entities. Your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you.
So Prabhupada writes, when a person is fully conversant with knowledge of the Lord as far as can be known by a perfect living entity in the liberated state, he is allowed to enter into the spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets exist. Okay, so one can know the Lord as much as the Lord reveals in the liberated state. So one cannot know completely, but as much as the Lord reveals, one can know according to one's capacity. But then in the liberated state, when one understands, then one becomes qualified to enter the spiritual world. Okay.
Is it to Uddhava or Maitreya?
Uddhava. He's speaking only to Uddhav. He doesn't speak to Maitreya at all.
Uddhava, in the lotus millennium in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel. about my transcendental glories which the great sages describe as Srimad Bhagavatam.
What is this? Chatushloki. Hmm? So the Lord is saying, I spoke to Brahma. Okay?
Uddhava said, O Vidra, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and addressed by Him with great affection, my words failed in tears and the hairs on my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I, with folded hands, spoke like this.
Hmm. So now Uddhava is speaking to the Lord.
O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realm of the four principles of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But, O Great One, as far as I am concerned, I have preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet.
So devotees are not interested in dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So they are interested only in bhavat padamboja nishevanot sukha. So only in the nishevana utsukta, eagerness, anxious to serve. So the devotees are only anxious to serve bhavat padamboja, the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord.
Prabhuji, what is the meaning of this words failed in tears meaning?
He wiped his tears.
Words failed in tears.
Huh?
In the previous translation.
My words failed in tears. Quite a poetic way of putting it. Huh? Words failed and then tears came. Words did not come out. Instead of words, tears came. Okay, so Uddhav is praying to the Lord now and he's saying that as far as devotees are concerned, they're not interested in dharma, the kama and moksha, but they're very eager to render service unto your lotus feet. Okay, Aage, 16.
My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruity work, although you are free from all desires, that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time, and that you enjoy householder life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy yourself.
Okay, so all contradictions. So 4 contradictions he is saying, describing or glorifying the Supreme Lord. So he performs karma, although he is free from all desires. Although he is free from all desires. Anihasya. Although he is anihasya, one who has no desire, still there is karmani. So although he is abhavasya, one who is never born, still there is birth, bhava. Although he is aribhayat, although he is kala atmana, one who is the controller of eternal time. So, but still he behaves as if aribhayat, and he takes shelter of a fort, Durga Ashraya. And although he is Swa-Atman Rate, he enjoys in himself, but still Pramada Ayuta. So he enjoys household life with many women. So many contradictions we find in the Lord's activities. So Prabhupada here. Okay, read that first paragraph.
Devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regard to transcendental knowledge of the Lord. Nor is it possible to acquire complete knowledge of the Lord. Whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient for them because Devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This gives them all transcendental bliss. But some of the pastimes of the Lord appear contradictory, even to such pure devotees. Thus, Uddhava asked the Lord about some of the contradictory incidents in his pastimes. The Lord is described as having nothing to do personally, when it is actually so, because even in the creation and sustenance of the material world, the Lord has nothing to do. It seems contradictory then to hear that the Lord personally leaves the Govardhan hill for the protection of his unallied devotees. The Lord is Supreme Brahman, the absolute truth, personally regarded appearing like a man, but Uddhava had doubts whether he could have so many transcendental activities.
Okay, so and then he's explaining the other contradictions. He's unborn, yet he's born to Vasudeva and Devaki. He's fearful even to Kala, but then he's afraid of fighting Jarasandha and takes shelter in a fort. So those contradictions. And then at the end of that second paragraph, he says, all these apparently contradictory happenings bewilder even the greatest learned scholars, who thus bewildered cannot understand whether inactivity is a fact or whether his activities are only imitations. Okay, so they cannot understand whether he actually performs activities or he is only doing a drama, imitation. So what is the fact? So it's very difficult to understand. The solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental. Janma karma chame divyam. So everything is divyam, transcendental. This cannot be understood by mundane speculators. For the mundane speculators, there is a kind of bewilderment. But for the transcendental devotees, there's nothing astonishing in this. Okay, so we have discussed about these various contradictions. Whether Krishna ate mud or did not eat. But then, they're all transcendental. Okay, continue. Text 17.
O my Lord, your eternal self is never divided by the influence of time, and there is no limitation to your perfect knowledge. Thus, you were sufficiently able to consult with yourself, yet you called upon me for consultation, as if bewildered, although you are never bewildered, and this act of yours bewilders me.
So this is another contradiction. Another contradiction. So when did Krishna call Uddhav for consultation? So what was the problem there? हाँ बोलो हरिनारायण. Which kings? Who were going to be sacrificed. So one request came from there, and Raj to sacrifice. Yes. So then he was confused. Krishna was confused apparently. Where to go? Here or there? So then at that time he consulted Uddhav. So Prabhupada writes, Uddhav was never actually bewildered, but he says that all these contradictions appear to be bewildering. The whole discussion between Krishna and Uddhav was meant for the benefit of Maitreya, who was sitting nearby. So the main benefit was for Maitreya, so that Maitreya could get knowledge about Krishna by all these discussions. Okay, then Prabhupada is explaining when he called Uddhav for consultation. He is eternally self-intelligent. Therefore, he is calling for Uddhav to give him enlightenment is certainly astonishing. So all these actions of the Lord appear to be contradictory, although there is no contradiction in the routine activities of the Lord. Therefore, it's better to see them as they are and not attempt to explain them.
Then there is no Krishna Katha.
So this is all Krishna Katha. So that's what. So just read them as it is without trying to explain them. Huh? No personal purpose. Correct. So that's what. So therefore we just accept whatever the Lord's activities. So he is unborn, yet he is born. So what explanation you will give?
how is born? How is born?
So you have repeated the same statement. You have not explained it. You have only added the word how, but you have not answered the how. Just by adding the word how, what explanation you have given?
Narrate the past time.
So that's what Prabhupada is writing. Just narrate the past time. There is no how. So if you start asking the question how, why, and then give answer also, then the answer will simply be speculation. Because there is no how and why. You simply have to accept.
This how and why also from purports of Prabhupada. Explanations of the previous Acharyas.
Okay, fine. If the Acharyas have given some explanation, then that we can take. That much we can take. But there is no further how and why.
For them also, when they think it is just as it is, then no purpose comes up. In the second canto, we read Vasudev is suggested to give the knowledge based on the.
Disseminate the knowledge. Spread the knowledge. And expand the knowledge as how much ever is possible. But there are some things which don't have any explanation. So all these contradictions, what is the explanation? Even though he is self-intelligent, still he calls Uddhav for consultation. What is your explanation?
I don't have for this. One incident where Krishna is there within the Uttara's womb by the Paramatma. Kuntima, is she able to see outside also? She is able to see in the.
Correct.
She had experience.
Okay.
She shares her experience in bewildered form.
Okay.
So when we hear her experience, then that experience we can share with us.
That's good. That's good. So that's what Prabhupada is writing. So the same thing can be shared as it is, but there is no further explanation. There is no further explanation about all these various contradictions, why he did this, why he did that, why he is only playing flute, why not some other instrument. There is no answer to all this. So therefore, it is better to see them as they are and not attempt to explain them. So that is what the speculators do. Then the speculators try to explain all this. Then it's all mental speculation and then it all goes in the wrong direction.
Example, I was just thinking where Krishna kept his hand on the banyan tree and slept. So we are discussing how banyan tree represents the material universe. So these explanations somebody has given it, right?
So whatever the acharyas have given, so that much we accept. But there is no further explanation. How much? And even the acharyas are limited, correct? Even the acharyas are limited. Even they cannot understand everything. Why the Lord did this, why the Lord did that. So how much ever is their realization, that much they have given. And so that much we accept. So now you cannot give further purports on that.
With all due respect to Acharyas, when we hear such, when we also get some experience, right? So when pure devotees, when Acharyas, at least.
Okay, I understand your point. So therefore, whatever is your experience and your realization, it has to be in line with the previous Acharya's realization.
Such explanations can be there.
So it should be in line. So it cannot be something else. So if it's in line with the previous Acharya's explanation, then it's better to confirm. Okay, fine. Text 18.
My Lord, kindly explain to us, if you think us competent to receive it, that transcendental knowledge which gives enlightenment about yourself and which you explained before to Brahmaji.
Okay, so now Uddhava is requesting the Lord to see how he is requesting. If you think us competent to receive it. If you think us competent to receive it. Just like in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 4th verse. What is 11th chapter, 4th verse? 11th chapter, 4th verse, Bhagavad Gita. Very similar. Manyase yadi shakyam. Translation.
If you think that I am able to behold
Yes, if you think I'm able to behold.
your cosmic form, O Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self.
Yes, so Prabhupada explains in that purport, Arjuna is not demanding, show me. He's not demanding. What he's saying? If you think I'm competent, if you think I'm qualified, then show. If you think I'm not qualified, don't show. So here also same thing. If you think us competent to receive it, that transcendental knowledge which you have given to Brahmaji, if you think we are competent, then you please tell. So the devotee's mode of humility is always there. So he never demands.
One question regarding this.
Uh,
So just like
Api
Arjuna,
kshamam.
Arjuna is requesting that if you think I have deserved. So this is one way of thinking about it. Now can we think vice versa also? If Krishna has shown the cosmic manifestation, then that it can be inferred from it that Arjuna deserves.
Correct. That's correct.
So in our cases also, like, can we do like that?
What you want to do?
I mean, we say, like, in our philosophy, we say, like, I don't deserve, but I got it by some mercy.
Hmm.
We infer it like that.
So that means the inference is I deserved it. That's what you're trying to say, isn't it?
I'm saying we infer it some other way, but we are taught some other way.
Acha. So actually is something else. We are taught something else.
No, this, how can I understand this? So first comes, first we have to deserve, then we will get something. But if we get something, does that mean we deserved it or what?
What do you think?
I know that I have to think that I don't deserve, but
No, it's not that I have to think that I don't deserve. The fact is I don't deserve. It is not only thinking. If it is only thinking, tomorrow thinking will change. Today I'm thinking I deserve, tomorrow I'll think I deserve. So it is not only thinking, it is a fact. And why it is a fact? We discussed this point in one of our discussions. We were discussing that point of causeless mercy. So why it is a fact? It is not only just thinking, it is a fact that I don't deserve.
One can know God when God desires. हमारे endeavor से God desires, then.
So I am always unqualified. Yes. So because Krishna is not obliged, जबरदस्ती नहीं है भगवान को, दिखाना ही पड़ेगा. नहीं, जबरदस्ती कुछ नहीं है. तो अगर दिखाएंगे तो it is always causeless mercy. Because nobody can force Krishna, right? Krishna is Swarat, totally independent. So nobody can force Krishna. So therefore, I'm always, whatever I receive is always causeless. It is not only just my thinking so, it is a fact. Because nobody can force Krishna. Nobody can force Krishna to show the universal form to Arjuna, nor can anyone force Krishna to speak this knowledge to Uddhav. He is totally independent. So therefore, if he has spoken it, in this case, of course, Uddhav definitely, he deserves it, he's qualified, all that. Definitely applies to Uddhav. But still, the point always remains that he's not forced. So therefore, I always have to understand that I don't deserve, because Krishna is not forced. So if I have received something, then it's simply causeless mercy. Okay, Prabhupada writes in this purport, a pure devotee like Uddhav has no material afflictions because he engages constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. A devotee feels afflicted without the association of the Lord. Constant remembrance of the Lord's activities keeps the devotee alive. And therefore, Uddhav requested that the Lord please enlighten him with the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam as previously instructed to Brahmaji. Okay, next. Okay, yeah. इति आवेदित हार्धाय मह्यं स भगवान् परः आदिदेशावदाक्ष आत्मनः परमां स्थितिम्.
When I thus expressed my heartfelt desires unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the lotus-eyed Lord instructed me about his transcendental situation.
Purport.
The word Paramam Sthitam are significant in this verse. The Lord's transcendental situation was not even spoken to Brahma when the 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam 2:9-56 were explained. This transcendental situation comprises his dealings with devotees engaged in transcendental loving service as exhibited at Dwarka and Vrindavan. When the Lord explained his specific transcendental situation, it was meant for Uddhava only. And therefore, Uddhava only particularly said, Mahyam, unto me. Although the great saint Maitreya was also sitting there. Such a transcendental situation is hardly understood by those whose devotion is mixed with speculative knowledge of fruitive activities. The Lord's activities in confidential love are very rarely disclosed to the general devotees who are attracted by devotion mixed with knowledge and mysticism. Such activities are inconceivable pastimes to the Lord.
Yes, so Uddhav, he heard from the Lord something more than just the Chatushloki. Paramam Sthitim, transcendental situation. So this is Krishna's very confidential dealings, reciprocations with his pure devotees. So only that much is mentioned. We have no clue as to what exactly the Lord spoke to Uddhav. But here Uddhav is telling that he instructed me about his transcendental situation, Paramam Sthitim. And as Prabhupada is explaining that, it specifically refers to his confidential dealings with his devotees, which was not even disclosed to Brahma. So something very confidential was disclosed to Uddhav. Okay.
From the previous one, this verse, Buddha was telling that explain to us. In this verse, he is saying explain to me.
Correct. So that's true. So in the previous verse, yes, so things to Vidura. Here Srila Prabhupada is speaking about the Chatushloki and these 4 very great and important verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam are particularly taken out by the Mayavadi speculators who constitute different purports with their input. Further down, Prabhupada says it was an emergency. So the Buddhist philosophy was also emergency, and the Mayavad philosophy also was emergency to defeat Buddhism, but it was not something that is permanent. And thus Lord Krishna was accepted by Shankaracharya, the Supreme Personality of God, in commentation on Bhagavad Gita. Since he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, he did not dare write any commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, because that would have been a direct offense at the lotus feet of the Lord. But later speculators in the name of Mayavad philosophy unnecessarily make their commentary on the Chatushloki Bhagavatam without any bona fide intents. Next paragraph towards the end. It should be particularly noted herein that Uddhav studied the Chatushloki Bhagavatam directly from the Lord, who spoke them first to Brahmaji. And this time, the Lord explained more confidentially, so along with the Chatushloki, the Lord explained more confidentially the self-knowledge mentioned as the Paramam Sthiti. Upon learning Uddhav, everlastingly Bhagavatam. So to actually understand the Chatushloki, one should to okay, continue please.
My dear, just to mitigate this, now proceeding associates with the Lord in the double perception of simultaneous separation and waiting. The pure devotee is not for a moment unengaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. Execution of the Lord's service is the main occupation of the pure devotee. Uddhava's separation from the Lord was unbearable, and therefore he stated he
Started.
started to Badrikashram in obedience to the Lord's order, because the order of the Lord and the Lord Himself are identical. As long as one is engaged in the execution of the order of the Lord, there is no factual separation from Him.
Okay, so this is beautiful. Beautifully, Srila Prabhupada is explaining how the pure devotee, he constantly associates with the Lord in the double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting. So, how is the separation and meeting? Simultaneous?
Meeting is by following the order.
Hmm.
Separation is feeling separation.
Yes, the absence of the physical presence. So, absence of the physical presence is separation, but at the same time, he is also meeting by following instructions. So, Srila Prabhupada also said the same thing. So, physically, he met his Guru Maharaj only 5 or 6 times, but at the same time, he was never separated. Why? He was always meditating on his instruction. So, that's how. So, the same thing is applicable. The pure devotee also feels like that. And yes, simultaneous separation and meeting. Okay, 22.
There in Badrik Ashram, the personality of Godhead in his incarnation as the sages Nara and Narayan has been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities.
Okay, so that's, he's describing Badrik Ashram and is now leaving to Badrik Ashram. Okay, so that's the end of the conversation between Uddhav and Vidura. Okay, so this is the last thing that Uddhav told Vidura, and now he is proceeding towards Badrik Ashram. Now coming back to Shukadev Goswami.
Sukdev Goswami said, after hearing from Uddhav all about the inhabitants of his friends and relatives, annihilation of his friends and relatives, the learned Vidur pacified his overwhelming bereavement by dint of his transcendental.
Yes, so Prabhupada writes all these, that means of the Kuru dynasty, Yadu dynasty, all these hurled him into bereavement for the time being. But because he was highly advanced in transcendental knowledge, he was quite competent to pacify himself in enlightenment. Okay, so that's how the transcendental knowledge helps. So when one is faced with difficult situations, then one can see the situation in the right perspective because of the knowledge. And that's how he pacified himself. Yes, but one has to learn the art of subduing such bereavement with higher transcendental knowledge. The talks between Uddhav and Vidura on the topic of Krishna began at sunset, and Vidura was now further advanced in knowledge due to his association with Uddhav. Okay, so sunset, and then it seems throughout the night they were talking. Morning. Okay, 24.
While Uddhava, the chief and most confidential amongst the Lord, was going away, Vidura, in confidence, questioned him.
Okay, purport.
Vidura was much older than Uddhava. By family relationship, Uddhava was a contemporary brother of Krishna's, while Vidura was as elderly as Krishna's father was there. But although junior by age, Uddhava was much advanced in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, he is described herein as the chief amongst the devotees of the Lord. Vidura was confident about this, and thus he addressed Uddhava in that higher category. That is the way of courteous dealings between two devotees.
Yes, so as I said, there are two types of seniority. What? Vayovriddha, Jnanavriddha. So here Vidura was definitely older in age, but he is taking a humble position. Of course, he is elder in age and spiritual advancement, everything. But he is taking a humble position and is thinking that Uddhav is definitely more advanced because of being very intimate with the Lord. And so therefore, Vidura inquires from Uddhav before Uddhav leaves. Courteous dealings between two devotees means what? So proper etiquette is being followed, humility and all that. Mm. Okay, so now what does Vidura inquire?
Vidura said, although because the servants of Vishnu, the Lord, wander in the interest of serving others, it is quite fit that you kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened by the Lord Himself.
Okay, so Vidura is inquiring from Uddhava about that Paramam Sthitim, that knowledge which he received from the Lord. Here Prabhupada is talking about how the servants of the Lord are entrusted with this responsible work of giving this knowledge to others. And so they wander over the earth and to honor the planets in the universe. Next paragraph. Vidura was anxious to know from Uddhav that confidential known as Paramam Sthitim, in which the Lord is known by his transcendence. Although Vidura was older than Uddhav, he was anxious to become a servant of Uddhav in the transcendental relationship. Okay. So,
the first line they mentioned the servants of the Lord are actually the servants of the society.
correct.
What that society? Prabhupada is a
Read the next sentence.
they have no interest.
Read na.
The society refers to
Read the next sentence, na.
It's not human society. Other than to enlighten it to transcend knowledge. Interested in imparting knowledge of the relationship of the living being, being the supreme law. The activities in the transcendental relationship and the ultimate goal of human life. There is a real knowledge which can help society achieve the real aim of human life.
Right. So which society?
Devotee society.
After reading the whole thing, you are saying devotees. Huh? What Prabhupada is writing? Human society, na? Is writing human society or devotee society? Human society is human society. You have some other interpretation? Human society. Okay, so before leaving, Vidura is asking Uddhav about this Paramam Sthitim, very confidential knowledge which Uddhav received from the Lords. Now, what is Uddhav's reply?
Sri Uddhava said, you may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby, who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world.
Purport.
Although one may be well versed in transcendental science, one should be careful about the offense of Maryada Vyatikrama, or impotently surpassing a greater personality. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of Maryada Vyatikrama, because by so doing, one loses his duration of life, his opulence, fame, and piety, and the blessings of all the world. To be well versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. Uddhava, being well aware of all these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitreya Rishi to receive transcendental knowledge. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as his spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhava's father, and therefore Uddhava could not accept him as his especially when Maitreya was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well versed. So, Uddhava decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitreya. Another person, but he was well versed also because he was directly instructed by the Lord while he was about to quit this mortal world. Since both Uddhava and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidura or anyone else. But Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim to becoming the spiritual master, especially for Vidura, who was much older than Uddhava. One should not be eager to become a spiritual master chiefly for sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. The Lord never tolerated the impertinence of Maryada Vetikrama. One should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master in the interest of one's own personal gain and fame. Impertinence on the part of pseudo spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization.
So, Maryada Vyatikrama. So, Maryada is what? Sadachar, etiquette. Maryada means etiquette. And Vyatikrama means transgressing the etiquettes. So, what are some of the reasons why the etiquette should be properly followed? What are some of the reasons? Yes, to avoid offenses. So, why there is possibility of offense if one does not follow etiquette?
Here it is said that Krishna will not tolerate this kind of
That's correct. So that's another effect. Krishna will be displeased when the etiquettes are not properly followed. Why not following etiquettes leads to offense?
It will hurt other people.
Yes, so when there is improper behavior, then yes, then it hurts the other person.
By not following etiquettes, we tend to be in a material vision.
That's an important point, yes. Yes, so the etiquettes guard us from material consciousness, material vision. And even if one has the material vision, by knowing the etiquette, one is forced to elevate one's consciousness. So just like I see a Vaishnav and my mind says, अरे रोज देखता हूँ, अरे साधारण व्यक्ति है, क्या है वो? But then when I remember the etiquette, I still offer obeisances as a matter of etiquette. Then what happens? Yes, so then one is sort of forced to raise one's consciousness and offer respect. So by following the etiquette, one is sort of forced to raise one's consciousness or modify one's consciousness, modify one's vision. So transform the material vision to a spiritual vision. And the ultimate purpose of all the etiquettes, the ultimate purpose of all rules and regulations is? Yes, Martavya Satam Vishnu Vismartavya. That is the purpose of all rules and regulations. Ultimately to remember Krishna, ultimately to please Krishna, that is the purpose. And so therefore, it's very important that one at least know what are the etiquettes. At least one must have knowledge of the etiquettes. And then at least when one has knowledge, then whether one feels like or not, still one follows it. And everyone knows the well-known pastime of Srila Prabhupada and Gargamuni Prabhu, early days. He didn't want to offer obeisances. What Prabhupada said? So his answer was, I don't feel like. So Prabhupada said, you offer now, the feeling will come later. So now we may not feel like doing so many things, but still we do them anyways because that is instruction. And by following the instruction, one gets purified. And to the degree one gets purified, then the spiritual consciousness will eventually come. So respect means what? See again with different vision. So in that connection, we all know the famous verse, 6th verse of Nectar of Instruction. What is that? Drishte svabhava janiter vapushasya dosher na prakritatvam iha bhakta janasya pashet Gangam basam na kalu budbudafena banke brahma dhravatvam apagachati nira dharmai. Drishtei. Everything depends on drishti. What is one's drishti? So Rupa Goswami is saying, na prakritatvam. As far as Vaishnavas are concerned, don't see with material vision. Even though there could be vapu dosha, even though there could be faults, even though there could be some discrepancies in the vapu, the body, which includes both gross body as well as subtle body. So, gross body could have some defects, and subtle body also could have some defects, subtle conditionings. Somebody is a little hot tempered, short tempered, so many different habits, idiosyncrasies. So, we see that in the society of Vaishnavas sometimes. So, there could be these various defects, but still, Rupa Goswami is saying, don't put focus light on the defects. See the swabhava, see the natural constitutional position of the Vaishnava. So as we know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes two types of qualities of the Vaishnava. What are they? Swarup Lakshan, Tatastha Lakshan. What is the Swarup Lakshan? Krishna Eka Sharanam. Krishna Eka Sharanam. That is the Swarup Lakshan. And all the remaining 25 qualities are Tatastha Lakshan. So therefore, usually the tendency to see faults is there. Why? Yes, because we see the Tatastha Lakshan. Oh, he is not so humble, he is not so well behaved, he is not, he eats too much, or whatever. So one sees the Tatastha Lakshan and tends to find faults, which may be true also. But we need not put the focus light there, because among the two types of qualities, which is more important? The Swarup Lakshan. So therefore, when we see some apparent faults, in the Vaishnava, then we should force ourselves to see, okay, that may be there, but what about his surrender to Krishna? What about his service to Krishna? So one must immediately see the Swarup Lakshan and not focus on Tatastha Lakshan. The Tatastha Lakshan are like pod marks on the moon. That example is given. So, therefore, if we see the Swarup Lakshan, then we won't be so much bothered by the Tatastha Lakshan. Of course, whatever is the needful that needs to be done. That's another thing. But as far as a perception is concerned, then we need to focus on the Swarup Lakshan, not on the Tatastha Lakshan. And so therefore, he is giving the analogy of the Ganges water. So the Ganges water may be muddy, having straw, mud, stone, so many things. But still, when one understands the purifying potency of the Ganges, one takes bath anyways. Srila Prabhupada in one lecture he says, so sometimes in the Ganges one sees stool floating or sometimes even dead body floating. But then one just pushes them aside and takes bath anyways. So that should be the perception, the vision towards a Vaishnav. And so that, so similarly, so therefore the point that is that, so when the etiquette is followed, Maryada, when the etiquette is followed, then one is sort of forced to raise one's consciousness and have that spiritual vision, though the mind may tend to focus on the Tatastha Lakshan. So then one is forced, okay, so let me follow the etiquette. And therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that the real decoration of a Vaishnava is the Sadachar, the following of the Vaishnava etiquette. And of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone knows the famous pastime with Sanatana Goswami. So then he tells Sanatana Goswami that if one does not follow etiquette, then he becomes a laughing stock in this life as well as the next. And so we see that how not following etiquette could cost one very dearly. Examples. Ramchandra Puri and Madhvendra Puri. So Ramchandra Puri's dealings with Madhvendra Puri. So he was instructing his spiritual master and he was driven out by the spiritual master with heavy chastisement. Huh? Yes, Indra not offering respects to Brihaspati momentarily, just for few moments, and he immediately realized his mistake also. And Indra is cursing himself, oh, this opulence of mine is the cause of this. Too late. So many examples, especially Chaitanya Charitamrita, so many examples. In Bhagavatam, we have the prominent example of, yes, we have example of Daksha and Romaharshan. Romaharshan, he lost his life because of not following etiquette. And so therefore, that's very important. So in this case, even though Uddhava was very much qualified to instruct Vidura, but still as a matter of etiquette, he sends him to Maitreyi.
When you speak of Tatastha Lakshan, you are mentioning about finding faults. So, this example, this verse of 6 NY 6 Shloka. So, then what is the understanding of being a devotee? Because although it is Swarup Lakshan, like a Sharanam, but then if that Tatastha Lakshan is not getting exhibited, then what is the, like, that particular definition becomes like, then what is the definition of Sharanam in the sense one has to follow also? So I hope you understood.
It will take some time because the material conditionings, the swabhava, are very deep rooted. So therefore, sometimes the influence of the modes is there, and even though a devotee may be sincere, but still, because of deep conditionings, then one could make a mistake. And therefore the Lord is also accepting that. Apiche suduracharo bhajate mamanya. That is also in the same mood. So because full purification takes time, isn't it? That takes time. So even a sincere devotee who is trying his best may commit mistakes due to the influence of the modes. But if he is fixed in devotional service, then that is to be excused, not to be taken too seriously. Again, of course, it's very clear that it only refers to an accidental mistake, not purposefully done. Okay. If he does not follow etiquette, what all he loses, here Prabhupada is mentioning. This is a verse from the Bible. Yes, all these things. Yes. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of Maryada Vyatikrama, because by so doing, one loses duration of life, opulence, fame, piety, and the blessings of all the worlds. So,
what is the meaning? One should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master.
So that means whatever honor is supposed to be given, one should not pass over. One should not. That means we don't give that honor. What honor is due to be given, that is not given. That is the meaning.
In the interest of one's.
So that means one is supposed to respect the spiritual master, but because he is interested in his own name and fame, rather than giving that respect to that spiritual master, he takes on the name and fame for himself. So just like here in this case, Uddhav, if he was interested in becoming famous as the one who instructed Vidura, then he could have given instructions. Then Uddhav would have become more famous, no? But he does not do so. Why? Someone more qualified, elderly.
When we speak about Tatastha Lakshan, the question, Uddhava may be thinking that, is he thinking that elderly age-wise is the Tatastha Lakshan, right?
No, but here in this case, Both of them were equally qualified. Prabhupada is writing that, isn't it?
First claim to become.
See, since both Uddhav and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become spiritual master of Vidura. But Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim, especially for Vidura, who was also much older.
That age, is it not considered satisfaction?
No. Tatastha Lakshan in that context are in the 26 qualities of Vaishnava. In the 26 qualities of Vaishnava, Krishna Ekashanam is primary, all others are Tatastha.
In that way, Uddhava, he knows that he got something more Paramam. So, instead, I will give more secrets to you so that you can get more.
Well, that was meant only for Uddhav, anyways. That was not meant for anybody else. That was.
Aspect can be considered in the quality. There is the selection.
Yeah, so basically it's a matter of giving respect because he's elderly. Amani namani.
He doesn't want to give that Paramam system to Vidura.
No, that was not meant for anybody else. And the other things, anyway, both of them heard. So, okay, let's proceed.
What is the last line?
Last line. Impertinence on the part of the pseudo spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization. So, impertinence means impertinence means okay, you can say rudeness or not behaving properly. Impertinence.
That is pseudo-spiritual.
Yes, impertinence on the part of the pseudo spiritual master. That means if one does not behave properly, he becomes pseudo spiritual master. Because the real spiritual master will always behave properly.
On the part of pseudo-spiritual master.
Yes, by the pseudo spiritual master. Very risky. Okay, please continue. Huh.
So this is this Maryada Vrittigram, this laws follow while we are instruct to someone.
No. In general, Maryada means etiquette.
So this also applicable when we ask questions like if somebody who is immediate senior to us is there and a more senior person is there, so we should put our questions in front of immediate senior and then he will like that. Just in case of Shaunak Adi Rishi, so other rishis kind of submitted questions to Shaunak and like that it happened like that. So we should also do like that.
Time, place, circumstances. One has to see what is the situation. Like in a Bhagavatam class, everyone has the opportunity to ask. Or sometimes in a Bhagavatam class also we find, okay, the speaker may say that, okay, everyone give questions to this person and then he will decide. So, time, place, circumstances, one has to see.
In particular situation, when seniors are around and one new devotee who is also preaching and his boys come and pay visits to him. So what should he do? Accept.
So therefore the training has to be given to the juniors.
What is the training project? What should we tell? You should not pay visits when seniors are there. You pay to them.
What do you think?
I don't know, Prabhuji.
Come on. What should be done?
It is the etiquette that who is the most senior, he should be offered first. Or combinedly, it can be offered to
Whatever, yes. So both should be offered. Anyway, again, practical situation, where is the senior, where is the junior, what is practical, what is not. Therefore, the principle must be understood. The principle must be understood. So, if the principle is understood, then one can use one's intelligence to do the needful. Okay, fine, let's proceed.
Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, after thus discussing with Vidura the Lord's transformed to name, fame, qualities, etc., on the bank of Yamuna, Uddhava was overwhelmed with great affliction. He passed the night as if it were a moment, and day after he went away.
Yes, so this all happened, yes, in the nights. So as in previously it was mentioned, at sunset the discussion started, and then throughout the night they were discussing, and that whole night passed as if it were one moment, and then Uddhava left for Badrikash. Continue, please.
The king inquired, at the end of the pastime of the Lord of the three worlds, Sri Krishna, and after the disappearance of the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties, who were the best of the great commanders, why did Uddhava alone remain?
So this is Parikshit Maharaj's question to Shukdev, that after Krishna disappeared, Yadus disappeared, everyone disappeared, then why this Uddhava remained? Of course, okay, here there are some commentaries. Okay, read the purport.
Okay. According to Sri Jiva Goswami, Nidanam means the transcendental abode of the Lord. Ni means the highest, and Danam means opulence. And because the abode of the Lord is the highest manifestation of transcendental opulence, his abode can therefore be called Nidanam. Apart from the grammatical elucidation, the real purpose of the word Nidanam is to indicate that all the members of Vrishni and Bhoja dynasty were direct associates of the Lord. And after the end of his pastimes, all the associates were dispatched to their respective positions in the transcendental abode. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur illustrates the meaning of Akritim as pastimes. A means complete and Kriti means transcendental pastimes. Since the Lord is identical with his transcendental body, there is no question of his changing or quitting his body. To act in accordance with the rules and customs of the material world, the Lord seems to take his birth or leave his body, but the pure devotees of the Lord know well the actual fact. It is necessary, therefore, for the serious student of Srimad Bhagavatam to follow the notes and comments of great acharyas like Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti. To others who are not devotees of the Lord, the comments and explanation of such acharyas may appear to be grammatical jugglery. But to the student who are in the line of disciplic succession, the explanation of the great acharyas are quite fit. The word Upagateshu is also significant. All the members of Vrishni and Bhoja directly reach the abode of the Lord. Other devotees do not reach the abode of the Lord directly, but the pure associates of the Lord have no attraction for the opulence of any planets of the material world. Sometimes, due to inquisitiveness, devotees who are to be promoted to the abode of the Lord have some attraction for the opulence of the higher material planets above the earth, and thus they desire to see them while going up to the perfection. But the Vrishni and Bhojas were directly dispatched because they had no attraction for material planets. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also suggests that according to the Amarakosh dictionary, Akriti also means signal. Lord Krishna ordered Uddhava by signal to go to Badrikashram after his departure, and Uddhava, as a pure devotee of the Lord, carried out order more faithfully than going back to Godhead or the abode of the Lord. That was the cause of his remaining alone, even after the departure of the Lord from the face of the earth.
So the devotee considers the instruction more important than the association. So that's the important point. Okay, so Parikshit Maharaj is asking Shukdev Goswami, why did Uddhav remain? Of course, we already know the answer. But now Shukdev Goswami is replying. Okay?
Shukdev Goswami replied, My dear king, the cursing of the Brahmanas was only a plea, but the actual fact was the supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. He thought to himself as follows.
Continue. See, this pastime of the disappearance of the Yadu dynasty is explained in many places. So, this discussion will come many times. So, we are not getting into that discussion. Okay, continue.
Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly interested with knowledge about me.
Okay, here Prabhupada writes, Uddhava was considered to be the best amongst all devotees of that time, and therefore he was directly instructed by the Lord's grace so that people might take advantage of Uddhava's knowledge after the disappearance of the Lord from the vision of the world. This is one of the reasons why Uddhava was advised to go to Badrikashram, where the Lord is personally represented by the Narayan deity. One who is transcendently advanced can gain direct inspiration from the temple deity, and thus a devotee of the Lord always takes shelter of a recognized temple of the Lord in order to make tangible advancement in transcendental knowledge by the grace of the Lord. Okay, this was the main reason Lord wanted to give this knowledge to the residents of Badrikashram. 31.
Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead.
So Krishna is thinking Uddhava is very much qualified because why? Yes, because he's not affected by the modes. He's on the Shuddha Sattva platform. He's Jivan Mukta. So therefore, Krishna considers him to be very qualified to give this knowledge to the devotees at Badrikashram. Okay? 32.
So they was informed the king that Uddhava, being thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the source of all Vedic knowledge and the special master of 3 words, reached the pilgrimage site of Badrikashram and engaged himself there in trance, satisfy the Lord.
So Prabhupada writes in the 3rd paragraph of his purport that, or before that, at the end of the 2nd paragraph, Prabhupada writes, the Brahma Samhita says that it is very difficult to understand the Supreme Personality of God from the Vedas, but he is easily understood from a pure devotee like Uddhava. Taking mercy on the great sages who lived at Badrikashram, the Lord authorized Uddhava to speak on his behalf. Unless one has such authorization, one cannot understand or preach the devotional service of the Lord. So preaching has to be done under authorization. And the best example is? Yes, Nityananda Prabhu. He didn't preach unless he was authorized by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though he is Balaram. And in the next paragraph, Uddhava was certainly informed of the conditions of life on other planets, and all the sages were anxious to know of them, just as we are anxious to know about the planets in space. Uddhava was particularly deputed to carry a message to Badrikashram, not only to the sages of that place of pilgrimage, but also to the Narayan deities. Such a message must have been very more confidential than the knowledge described in the pages of the Vedas. Okay, so Lord spoke very confidential knowledge to Uddhava, and that was meant for the residents of Badrikashram and even the Narayan deities. So again in the next paragraph, he says that the Lord is undoubtedly the source of all knowledge, and the messages dispatched through Uddhava to Narayan and other sages were also part of the Vedic knowledge, but they were more confidential and could be sent or understood only through such a pure devotee as Uddhava. Since such confidential knowledge was known only to the Lord and Uddhava, it is said that Uddhava was as good as the Lord himself. But then, every living entity can, like Uddhava, also become a confidential messenger on the same level as the Lord, provided he becomes confidential himself by dint of loving devotional service. And further down he says, one cannot understand Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam without the help of such confidential devotees of the Lord. According to Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, that confidential message must have concerned the mystery of his departure and the annihilation of his dynasty after the end of his appearance in the mundane world for 100 years. Everyone must have been very anxious to know about the mystery of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty And that message must have been explained by the Lord to Uddhav and dispatched to Badrikashram for the information of Nanar and other pure devotees. So, Vishwanath Thakur is giving some clue as to what that confidential message must have been, which the Lord told Uddhav and Uddhav told the residents of Badrikashram. 33.
Vidura also heard from Uddhava about the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna. The super soul in the mortal world, which is the subject matter sought after with great perseverance by the great sages.
Okay, so about the disappearance of the appearance and disappearance of the Lord. Okay, that also was told. Continue.
The Lord's glorious acts and his acceptance of various transcendental forms for the performance of extraordinary pastimes in the mortal world are very difficult for anyone other than his devotees to understand. And for the beasts, they are simply a mental disturbance.
Right. Pashunam Viklava Atmana. So the beast cannot understand. Continue.
Understanding that he was remembered by Lord Krishna while quitting this world, Vidura began to cry loudly, overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love.
So the last moment when Krishna was leaving, he thought about Vidura. So Prabhupada writes, although he thought of himself as insignificant, he was remembered by the Lord by his causeless mercy. Vidura accepted this as a great favor and thus he cried. This crying is the last word in the progressive path of devotional service. One who can cry for the Lord in love is certainly successful in the line of devotional service. After passing a few days on the bank of the river Yamuna, Vidura, the self-realized soul, reached the bank of the Ganges, where the great sage Maitreya was situated. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th chapter, 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Vidura Approaches Maitreya. So we are on time, it's exactly 3:15. Okay, attendance. Adityaram Prabhu, Advait Karuna Prabhu, Akshobhya Prabhu, Anant Narsam Prabhu है क्या?